What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 81 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
How do they get away with this thing?
I don't understand.
I don't understand either.
How are you feeling about this gal gun?
I still need to play more of it to get a real opinion of
Really?
it on you. It's exactly what Galgun was. I knew what Galgun was going to be. I played the Xbox 360 import version with one Tina Sanchez at 1-up with Jeremy Parrish on my side. I knew what it was going to be. Shooting these girls, making them get all weak in the knees, flush in the face, make orgasm noises and fall down. That's what it is. That's what I got. I haven't played a lot of it. I haven't played enough to tell you if I'm going to platinum it or not going to platinum it.
Yeah.
I still like the idea of it, but then I get on the planes and I fall asleep.
I saw a thread on the Kind of Funny Facebook group.
Yeah.
That was like, is Greg Miller serious about this gal gun stuff?
I don't know anymore. I don't know. I've gone around the bend on it. But this book, man, good Lord.
Can you describe it? For the
Pornographic.
people at home?
Pornographic.
Describe what you're seeing right now.
Right now I am looking at a girl in her school uniform, and then on the other one of just her in her bra and panties.
Yeah.
And the panties are not covering everything. It's
Good.
one of those, but I mean, she's young.
Too young. That's what I was telling Colin. I'm all down for this anime stuff, but this, too far. That's way too far.
Now, that's an angel, though. That's it. If that she's
Are the
probably
rules
a
different with
million
angels?
years old. She's like a million years old, probably.
Are angels old?
Now, this is concept art.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, man. That's something. That is something going on there.
That is something. It's how I see the world. This is Kind of Funny Gamescast. Every week, we join together to talk about video games and all the stuff around video games and surrounding video games and why we like them, why we don't like them sometimes. Whole bunch of stuff. What's up?
Do you want to talk about why we're using the old microphones and Kevin's using the old board?
We're using old microphones, and Kevin is using this tiny little board that is kind of embarrassing, really,
We
because
used to use it though.
we're gearing up
Nick Scarpini to sit right here and use that thing.
for the Kind of Funny studio launch that is upcoming. You'll hear more about that soon.
Imminently.
You'll hear about
Imminent.
Y'all heard about this? Oh, it's terrible.
It's very exciting stuff. So please bear with us for the audio. That is, I'm sure, unbearable.
I'm sure it's fine.
It's fine, but
I'm
it'll
sure
be
it's fine.
worse than usual.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Lou Turbo somewhere is pounding his head against the
fucking
wall.
super upset. Anyways, you can get this show early on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames alongside a whole multitude of goodies. Or you can be like, you know what? I don't want the goodies, and go to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. We are once again really close to hitting 200,000 subscribers over there.
Ooh, maybe we won't
We
get robbed
lost a
again
lot
immediately.
in the great
thousands
purge
unsubscribe again, so we can just play this game constantly. It's like Groundhog Day.
of
I want to
2016.
stay at
We're constantly
190,000.
rolling the boulder up the hill.
So we're getting
Never
there.
get it there.
We're getting there. Thank you for that. Really, really do appreciate that. And of course, thank you to all the patrons, including Steven Insler,
The boy.
for being the Patreon producer of the show once again. Now,
Spoilers, he did it for the next month, too.
hell yeah.
Can I just say something about Steven Insler? I appreciate it and I respect it. You don't have to do this forever.
Don't listen to him. You have to.
Steven Insler, we
He
appreciate
makes the show happen.
we appreciate
man.
your respect. He does, but I'm just saying I feel bad.
Has anybody heard from Steven Insler is my
No.
question. I worry he died. And
I
that his
think
credit
he
card
did.
is
I
just
feel
That's
like
my
rolling
thing. Is
over.
he's never hit me up on Twitter. I feel like he should. We're boys now.
I feel like
you
I
know?
have heard from Steven Insler, but I'm probably making that up.
You just hear his name every week.
There's the other dude from San Diego, Steven
Totillo.
or something like that.
I think I met him actually.
You have.
at Polite,
Yes.
like when I was
Yes.
just there incidentally.
Yes. Oh, makes sense. Makes sense. Anyway, he's a good dude. So I want to talk about No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky.
If you want a glimpse into what it's like to be Colin and Greg living at this house, everybody left yesterday, and we just laid in our different beds from the other room, yelling "No Man's Sky," just in different voices, and we were
good.
cracking up like it was the
I wasn't even
funniest thing.
playing it. Playing brutal.
So you guys did a little kind of a breakdown of your early impressions.
Super early impressions,
on
yeah.
P.S. I Love You,
Right.
XOXO. You can find that over on this beautiful YouTube channel.
YouTube.com/GrindFunnyGames.
But now you guys have put a little bit more time into it. What's the status update from you guys?
I have. I finally got to dive more. Yeah, you haven't played any, right?
I played a little over an hour of the game so far.
So, yeah.
Last night I played brutal instead.
Gotcha.
The last 2 nights I played that game.
No, I've been doing it, in the lead up to No Man's Sky. What we've been saying a lot is, and when I say we, I mean me, is that I saw this maybe being a game I put 30 minutes into before bed every night, did something like that. And usually I say stuff like that and then just gorge on a game and totally ignore that I ever said that. This has actually been what's happening. I'll get in there, I'll actually chip away for 15, 30 minutes, come back to it, go out there, do that. It's a horrible way to play this game. It is a horrible way to play this game. I feel like I am making no progress, and this is a game that makes you feel like you're making no progress, period, right? Like, you don't play No Man's Sky, I can't say it normal now, No Man's Sky, and, check off all these boxes, do all these things, complete all these quests. You're going from planet to planet trying to figure out all this stuff. So my update is, I'm probably another hour and a half from where I was on PS I Love You XOXO. I just got my hyperdrive up and running. I just used it for the first time to jump out of, the system I was in into this other place, go over there, see what's happening there. I'm, learning the ins and outs now of selling material or buying new things, how to communicate with. I walked in to the first space station. There's some goddamn alien back there. Looks totally made up. Probably was. I don't think he's a real alien. And he's there, and they're like, he you don't understand their languages, right? You're as you learn, you get words from them, you start deciphering more and more and more, which is a cool thing, I think. But I'm there, and he's like, you get little description. Have you seen this where you get like, you'll talk to somebody or something will happen, and you get the text from your character up here, like a journal entry of like how he's feeling or how he's reading the situation, like this alien that he can't understand is acting angry and and he points at your gun or whatever, and so it pops up and it's like, give the guy your gun, refuse your gun, and I'm like, I'm a guest on this space station. I just got here. I give him the gun. He then gives me a better gun. And he's like, oh, that wasn't the way we expected it to go, was it? Yeah,
so he's upset. He's like, how are you traveling?
Yeah.
How are you doing this with that
Annie, you got a bad gun. I give you a better gun before I get on a horse.
Do you see him actually animate angrily? Like, did you
No,
get that
they just
sense,
like kind of,
just...
no, they kind of look around. There's not like getting facial animations or anything like that. But that was cool, and that was, I was finally feeling like, okay, something's happening. But then I went, I got that. I got the hyperdrive. I jumped, so I get to hop over there. I go to a new planet. I land. It's different. It looks really beautiful. That's the one thing about the game. It's gorgeous. There's, I really like the style of it. See new animals, do all this different stuff. But then it's just back to collecting and stuff. And it was that first thing of like, I'm in this weird spot right now where I feel like tonight will be the first time, unless I go to trivia with Colin, where I get a few hours to actually sit down and play it consecutively before I pass out. And that'll be the real test to see how into it I am. Because I have this thing where I play it for the 15, 30 minutes I'm going to give it, and I'm like, all right, this is okay. I feel like I'm finally getting, I can only hold 12 things. That sucks. And I got to, what am I going to go? Do I break this down? Is that more important? I go in, I'm still, at a glance, I still don't know, like, what I need of, like, wait, does this help my life support, which is always dropping so crazily, or is this going to help the ship or the fuel or whatever? I always have it, but I feel like I'm always
You're still learning the rules.
Exactly.
Of the world.
But the thing about it is, now that I did this first, I think 2 or 3 runs now, where it's like, all right, cool, I got some stuff, now I'll go back to the space station. I got some stuff, and back and forth, where it's just like, I need now another carrot at the end of the stick. I need to know what I do with all this. Because if this is all it's going to be, of doing this, getting a better weapon, all right, cool, I'm improving this, I can travel further, I don't know if I'm going to stick around much longer. And not that I'm saying the game's bad, just because I don't know if that's what I'm looking for right now.
Yeah, so what's interesting about that, I see a common thread with a lot of people's thoughts on this game are the people that just want to be in a world seem to be super happy about it, but the people that like the Ubisoft style games, the checklists, and just like collecting things with a sense of completion, this is not that. This is a game you're not gonna 100% because it's not possible.
Yeah.
It's just more about collecting things, not to collect them all, just to collect the things.
Yeah, well, it's that, and it's like incremental upgrades, right? If it is, okay, cool, now I have a better gun. Okay, now if I keep doing this, I can get a better ship, and now I can get a better hyperdrive, and okay, cool, I can craft this thing that allows me to run longer, and like, that's all cool and allows me and my gun not to overheat as fast. And I'm interested in all that, in making my Explorer the best Explorer possible. But it's also, the servers are totally fucked as of recording. So you get on there and there's no connectivity. So I haven't named anything. I haven't had that experience where I'm like, oh, cool. I'm did you see Anthony Carbone's video? Anthony Carbone put up this video. Everyone should go watch it. Kevin, if you can put it in the description, that'd be great. Over on his channel, which I hope is Anthony Carbone, but who the hell knows? Find him on Twitter. He put up a video that's a PSA, like with the sad music behind it or whatever, where he talks about how he, got to do a whole bunch of content beforehand working with Hello Games or whatever, and he named all the animals Anthony. Like, that's a sea Anthony, and this is this. And then, so he started a hashtag Save the Anthonys, and he's asking everybody who finds a creature to name it some version of Anthony. And so now he's just retweeting all these people doing that. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to get in there and be part of this, but I can't. Yeah. Right now I'm just like, oh, cool. It's a name I have no idea how to pronounce and whatever. And this is how it's going.
That's awesome, though. I saw a bunch of tweets of just T-Rexes. That's just straight up a T-Rex that they just put there.
Well, and it's like, in that is the thing I'm getting. Like, you already have those wisps of the game where, like, right now, even when I'm like, I don't know if this, I still want to go play it. Today, I woke up super early for some reason, answered a bunch of emails, got through some other stuff. Great. And it was like, I had time before you guys came over. I was like, I want to play. So I jumped in and played for, 15 minutes. But again, it's just, I don't feel like I'm making real progress in that time. And I don't know if it'll be that once I sit down and have one marathon a session of like, oh, this is how this works, and these are just to be traded in, and da da da. If once that all clicks and it can become this thing that I'm popping back and forth into, it won't be as big a deal. I like what I've seen. I'm just worried about how long it'll keep me. But then again, to the T-Rex thing, that I landed on this planet, got out of the thing, and then like all these spiders started attacking me, and I was like, oh Jesus! And I ran over to do what I needed.
Planet.
Did whatever I did. I put the stuff back in my life support, talked to the guy, got the thing I needed to get my warp drive working. Jumped back out, started trying to shoot the spiders. That scared him off, but then the sentinels were coming over. Like, Jesus, fucking ran over, got into my ship, and just as that happened, literally a dinosaur ran up to the window of the ship, was like chilling outside. I'm like, fuck you. And I go to hit the thrusters, and it's like, you're out of thruster gas. I'm like, God damn it. Fuck, what am I going to do? And I went through, and I find out that I had some and did it and got the hell out of there. But it's like, that's a cool experience, and I do want that. And it's like, I will come back for that. But I'm worried if it is just land, gather, go, land, gather, go. But it is that thing. I say that, and then at the same time, I finally got the hyperdrive, right? Got to the new place, got into the new space station, and went to their thing, and they have all the different prices for all that stuff. And I was like, fuck. Why didn't I write down what was selling at a higher price at the other space station? So then I could go harvest whatever I need to there, or buy whatever here, and go flip it, and just sit here. And I'm like, why didn't I just sit here for 30 minutes doing this over and over and over again in this loop so I had unlimited money? I'm like, I want to do that. I want to spend a night just sitting there getting millions of space bucks or whatever the hell it's called.
You're Greg on the black market of No Man's Sky.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's the fun of that game is, going in. And that's the thing is, like, yeah, it doesn't necessarily have the Ubisoft checkboxes, right? There is, you jump over, like, where it tells you, I keep doing things that's like new accomplishment. And it's like, you've met this many aliens, or this has happened, or you've taken, gone this far. Very cool. You can go track all that in there. There is the thing of, like, when it is get your hyperdrive running, it is get this thing, get the fuel, do this, go into space. And there are check boxes there that pop up. But right now, for me, it's not super accessible for that, right? Because it was like, I like this and don't, right? There is no hand-holding in the game, which is interesting, which is definitely not what the modus operandi is for games at this day and age. So to get in there and have it be like, I was like, all right, cool. Oh crap, I got to do this. All right, I'm gonna sell all this stuff. I don't think it's important. I sell that. I have enough. I bought the hyperdrive, and then it was like, now you gotta get a warp cell. And I was like, I looked around the thing. Could I buy a warp cell? It's like, it's one of the red with the white lightning bolts. I'm like, I see those down there when I'm getting. So I left, and then it was the beacon from somebody or distress signal. And I went over to him. That pushed the story forward that way. But it was that thing of like, am I going to know how to get this? When am I going to figure? Now I've done that, right? And I've jumped for the first time. And now it's like, all right, cool. Now you have to get the recipe to make your own warp cells. And it's like, okay, but where do I get that? And the game's, it's all there. I'm going to find it clearly because I was able to get this far without anything. Yeah. But it's just this interesting thing of, it's not, all right, here's your white line. Go straight to this. This is exactly what you need to do. And you need to exactly talk to this person. You'll be able to buy this. And da, da, da.
I got a big question for you, Greg.
Sure.
Is it fun?
What's your definition of fun? No,
here's your answer.
I mean, it is, but it's definitely not fun for everyone, right? You know what I mean? Like I enjoy Minecraft. I really, really like Minecraft, and that's not for everybody. And this isn't obviously not building like that, but it is as much as I'm like, is it just as soon as I find the exploit, or not even the exploit, but just the one that literally this is a great way to make money, I'm going to do that. And I'll sit there and put on a podcast and do that over and over again like I did when I just tunneled into the ground in Minecraft for no reason and got super like, I'm going to build it up by this many blocks and put it up here. And I want to put a hole there. And then I'm like, I'm going to give me 16 ovens. I want to cook all this sand to make glass because I suddenly want a glass seat. You know what I mean? Like there is that to it. And as soon as it gets to the point of like, okay, cool, I understand how to get a way better ship, and I'm going to start building to that ship because I do want to do this. And because right now, one of my annoyances is the fact that it feels like your life support systems, your oxygen tank, your fire resistance, your fuel goes so fast, goes so fucking fast. That's the point. That's the curve of the game, right? Is that I am in this, and they don't want me going too far. They want me to figure everything out in this little space. And I feel like once I start feeling it, that I'm getting further and further and further and getting stronger and stronger and stronger, I think that'll be the defining factor for me. And I hope after a solid night of playing, I'll have a much better grasp on that.
Colin, what are your...
I think it's a cool game. Like I spent maybe a little more than an hour with it the day we got the codes. I think this was Monday maybe when I played it, because I played Brutal later that night, and then last night I played it again. So the positives from what I can see, from what I can tell, I mean, it's in my head. I'm thinking about it. It's more than I can say about a lot of games that like really don't borrow their way into your mind anymore unless they're really, really good. And a good game does that. So I don't think that No Man's Sky is anything less than good. What I do think that it's going to end up being is underwhelming in its overwhelming nature. Jim Sterling wrote a really interesting review that I think is required reading for people out there. He didn't like the game very much at all. I think he gave it a 5 out of 10. But the salient, he had a lot of interesting things to say, and what he was saying was that a game, and I'm generalizing. I talked about it a little bit on Colin and Greg today. Is that he was talking about like we are, and I've talked about this in the past as well. When people bring up like Journey's 90 minutes and Unfinished Swan so short, I'm like, who gives a fuck? Like those games are great for what they are. And he was saying like we're starting to conflate scope and size with the character of a game, like, and that big and procedural or big and broad and fucking endless means good, and it doesn't. Like that isn't true. And I think No Man's Sky, for all of the marketing problems and all of the hype and all of the fact they can never reach what people thought it was going to be over these 3+ years that we've known about it, I think that it's too big. And I know that's the idea of the game, but I've been really fascinated reading a lot of people's critical reception of the game. The critical reception of the game is not good. Like it's like,
it's tepid, right?
Yeah, it's very. I mean, there are people that really like it, of course, but I was going through Metacritic's. As I explained earlier today, Metacritic has this thing. I don't know how long they've been doing it, where they're actually compiling reviews and progress quotes as well, which I've never seen before. Not that I'm really like looking at Metacritic all the time. And I was reading them just one by one, and I'm like, 3/4 of these are like decidedly mediocre. Some of them are just outright negative. And I'm like, that's an interesting thing because everyone's only been playing the game since Monday, so it has. And so these are like interpretations as of Tuesday night of the game. And the thing about me playing it, and the reason why I just haven't been, I want to play it. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna dump time into it. I have to because I feel like I owe it to this game for some reason. I like really see. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like there's like, I love space exploration, I love all that kind of stuff, and I feel like there's something here for me. And when I played it, I was filled with a sense of awe where I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm doing it. But what I'm realizing is that, to Greg's point, and from reading these reviews and just talking to friends that have played the game and dumped some time in it, it really is the same thing over and over and over again. And you can say that about any game, right?
Yeah.
In Ninja Gaiden, you're running around swinging a sword left to right over and over and over again. But that's really fun. Like, that's a rewarding gameplay loop. I don't know that this is going to be fun for more than a few hours for me. Mm-hmm. And what I sense from people out there is that some people are really going to love it, and some people are not going to like it at all, and I don't know that there's going to be much of a middle ground. And that's fine. Sean Murray himself, Hello Games' lead, said himself, he used the word divisive, and he thinks the game's going to be divisive. I don't think Sony did any favors for this game. I think they hyped it up way too much. I think they built it into something that it was clearly not going to be. And we talked about that for a long time. I said from the fucking word get-go when we saw it in 2013, I'm like, there's no way. Like what everyone think, this team is like 15 people. There's just no way that they're going to make this game into what everyone thinks it's going to be. Yet it's still algorithmically and mathematically super impressive. Yeah. It's a great idea, and that's the thing, and that's the thing. That's at the nugget for me, and why I want to give it time, and why I want to give it a fair shake. And I don't think an hour and change is a fair shake 100%. For this game at all. And I want to give it a fair shake because I think it's cool.
One of the big, I think the reason it will be so divisive is the fact that the people who are like, it's the same thing over and over again, fall out of it, are going to walk away with that idea, and the people who are going to go into it are going to go into it full bore, and it is going to be that. You're going to have these explorers with these amazing ships who can run for hours and who can never, don't take damage, and have these guns that blast down the iron reserves in 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to get so powerful that game's going to open up, and then space becomes like your oyster, and you are able to travel and do all the stuff. But the people like me who are already like, and I'm not saying I'm going to be one of them. I hope that I turn this corner and I'm totally in, and I get it. It all clicks. I'm ready to go, and I want to be that person because I do want to be that person. I want to be somebody who plays the game a long time because I still stand by the fact that like. It feels like a great end cap to every night, right? So we have these stressful days running this business, and then to go in there and like, all right, cool, I'm going to warp over to there. I've never been there. Oh, these planets are, cool, I'm going to get this resource, and I'm building to getting this new blaster cannon that I've been really eyeing for my ship or something like that. Those people, the ones who give that much time, are going to be like super into it. The people who drop out early and don't get to see that are the ones who won't understand.
Yeah. But we talk about, it's like the Final Fantasy 13 effect, right? Like how much time do you have to put into a game to get something out of it? And I'm simply not made of time. No one is. And like, I I'm of the mind in a sense with this game, and this is just me being very candid about it, that there are people that just under no circumstances will like it, and there are under
100%.
no circumstances will not like it. Like, and I think that there's just already camps developing or whatever, and I'm really trying to be as objective as possible and going into it. That's why, as I said when we talked about it on PS I Love You, I'm like, it's no less than good. I mean, I don't know how you can look at this game and be like, this game isn't good, or this game isn't interesting. Of course it is. It's bold and ambitious, and I think that Hello Games, at the very least, should be commended for trying something very new and very different. I mean, this is a game that is totally algorithmic. This is a game that is like when I talked about it on PS I Love You. I think when I went to the credits, I wanted to see, because I was really super interested. You could just go to the credits immediately from the menu, and I was like, I want to see how many people worked on this game, because I don't believe for a fucking second that they didn't outsource a lot of this shit. Lo and behold, that screen doesn't scroll at all. It's literally like 16 names, and I'm like, that's incredible. Yeah. I thought when Sony got involved and Sony kind of picked this game up as a de facto first-party game, that they were going to dump, and I'm sure they did dump a lot of money into it, but they were going to outsource this, that there was probably 100 people that were working on this game, and they were just kind of keeping it as well-hidden secret. And you see that in the credits. There are outsourced studios all over the world that do shit, like will make assets or figure out a math equation or figure
just
out
worry
a program.
about online or whatever. Yeah.
And so I think that, they should be commended. They really there's a great image going around of 4 sequences with Sean Murray looking more and more tired and withered and haggard as the process of developing the game goes on. But do I think that they overpromised with the game? I don't think they did. I think Sony did, and I think that that's a problem, because there's a problem of optics with this game. And as I said before, it is the same issue that The Last Guardian is going to suffer from. They can't meet the expectations, so you have to just take the game as it is. And I think the game is a respectable, bold, interesting idea. It is extremely empty, but I don't know if that's really. I don't know if that's a bad thing. It's space, but I do get the Dan Stapleton at IGN. I read his review today. He doesn't like the game either, and he was saying that he hasn't scored it yet.
Gotcha.
But he was saying that the game is just empty, that there are like not fighters, I guess, your ships, you can see them sometimes in atmospheres, but like they're not doing anything. They're not like on trade routes. They're not like even they're just there to make it seem like the universe is full, but in reality, you're just totally by yourself. Mm-hmm. And another person, I think it was a GameSpot or Games Radar, someone said, because I've been reading all these things, I'm actually more interested in what people think of this game than playing it at this point. Another person was saying, it's fun to rename things, and it's fun to find an animal and name it, or find a planet or some sort of resource or whatever. But he's like, if no one's there to see it, like, who cares? Like, if I name this planet and it's one of a trillion planets and no one's ever gonna see it, who the fuck cares? And that's an interesting interesting point that I never really thought about. Yet, I think it's one of those games like Journey, but like on the opposite end of the spectrum, you're going to get out of it something, as Greg said, something totally different depending on. I don't necessarily know if it's time as much as it's like just energy, and mind share, like what you put into it. One of our community members, I don't know his name, I saw it on the Facebook group today, is keeping a handwritten journal of his time in No Man's Sky, which I think is a fucking cool idea. I would never do that because that seems like too cumbersome and laborious for me, but he's sketching things out and writing things down. I'm like, that's kind of cool, because you would imagine that he's role playing that character.
Yeah.
So I think No Man's Sky is quite unlike, even though it takes, it's a little bit of Minecraft and Terraria and all these kinds of games. It's not unlike anything we've ever seen before. So I think we need time to marinate and to figure it out, because I think for a lot of people, this is going to be the game of the year, and maybe even the game of the platform. Yeah. And I think for a lot of other people, this game is going to crash and burn for them. But I think that either way, it's going to be a massive success for Sony.
And I think that's the thing, is like we keep talking about how Sony overhyped it and did all this stuff, but like them doing that made all those things true. Otherwise, like without them having it at E3, even multiple E3s, showing the things that they showed, what's the difference between this or Abzu, where it is just a smaller game that comes out? Like, if this didn't have that hype and that platform, I don't think that it would be seen the same way. I definitely don't think the same discussions would be going on.
But the game might be the unfortunate truth, though. It's like The Last Guardian, right? Like, if we never saw The Last Guardian and they released it and they called it, Project X on PlayStation 4, and we just didn't know, we would have probably, that game would probably be Metacritic scored higher 2 points.
But I guess the thing is, so like, what matters more, Metacritics or sales?
Well, both, because I think that a good example of this is like, we have it on pretty good authority. The Order 1886 sold pretty well, right, on PS4. That's good for Sony. They probably made money on the game. They have this great engine now and this high fidelity kind of engine that they're working with. But the game sucks. No one is interested in, like, there are very few people, like, we're actually authentically interested in the sequel, but there are a lot of people that are like, I'm never going to play that shit ever again. And if I see anything with the Order on it, I'm like, there's a long game to be played with a lot of this stuff too. You want both. And so I don't, Sony of course wants to be profitable. They're a corporation, but also on the back end, No Man's Sky is going to be supported for a long time. It was a smart game for them to get into bed with. But I guess what I'm saying is, it's just, even if you've dumped dozens of hours into the game, as some people have, I still think it's too early to even render any sort of conclusion, because this game's just so weird. It's almost like an MMO where it's like, you have to just relax and like kind of see how it all pans out. The game's not, the game isn't working properly right now. It's there's no real online functionality. It is empty. It's lonely. Mm-hmm. But I think that kind of gets me, like, I am just off of playing I Am Setsuna. I platinumed it on PS4, a really fantastic Japanese role-playing game from Tokyo RPG Factory, and that game is all about sorrow and sadness. That was like what the game's all about. If you're not into that, the game's gonna fucking make you cry. You know, like if you don't want to be in that world. But that's what the game was about. I kind of feel like No Man's Sky is about loneliness.
I mean, it's about making your own adventure, and that's the thing. And like that, when we go back and forth with like, what do they say about multiplayer and these people who have been trying to find and meet themselves or not meet themselves, but meet each other. You get to this point of, I think the journal is such a great point, and the one going around on Twitter today of that weird looking over there and seeing that weird little animal that stops and it looks at the guy and then just fucking runs at him and starts attacking him. It's like,
it's an amazing.
Those are those moments that are going to matter, and that it is a game where there isn't a story, there isn't this thing happening. It's these moments that you'll have, that you'll share, that you'll talk about to your friends that are going, like my stupid dinosaur spider thing today that happened. Like those are the ones that make that. And if you are a guy who's like, yeah, I'm going to hang out in this system because I want to learn this language and I want to keep bringing things back to get words from these people so I can understand all them and decode all this, and that's interesting and fascinating. Today, someone hit us up on Twitter and was like, I heard where you guys are. He's like, I just finally wrapped my head around monoliths. That really opens it up. You should keep doing that until you get to that point. That's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
And not to mention that it's I'm sorry, to all the, comparisons to Minecraft, I do think that this is going to be another game that's such a moving target. Mm-hmm. They're going to keep putting out these updates, and it's going to be like, all right, cool. This is how you can see things easier. This is what, now those ships are trade routes and doing all these things.
I think that's the key thing too, in the argument against the Order 1886 thing, the Metacritic stuff, is that this game is gonna, and it, depending on the people, the hardcore people playing and finding this stuff, which I think that there is already, we're seeing there's a group of people that are dedicated to that, and as long as there's enough nuggets like that, Kotaku's gonna every day have some different, like, oh, this thing found, for how long? Forever? You know what I mean? For the next year?
Like I finished today, right? My session, and I was like, I need to go watch a couple of these videos that are like the 5 things to do when you get No Man's Sky, just to get a little jump start of like, what would amplify it? You know what I mean? And that's literally how Minecraft started, right? Where it was, here's this game, no fucking recipes in it, and people had to start going to boards and talking to each other and checking in.
I think the one important thing with No Man's Sky is, we are eager to jump to conclusions a lot in this industry, and I do, and I think our conclusions, whether they're positive or negative or neutral, are right for us, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think No Man's Sky is one of those games where we kind of have to keep an open mind. Like that's where, and keep that open mind open for a while longer. Doesn't mean you have to play it or buy it, but I think it's gonna be. It's weird. It's not a platformer. It's not a side scroller. It's not an RPG. It's kind of this weird thing. I'm reluctant, even very preliminarily, having played the game in a very rudimentary way. I am nowhere in the game at all. I'm flying around and seeing shit, but I'm like, I just don't know. I don't know. All I know is that it's good. Like it's good. And I think the word, like, the bold is the word I would use to describe it. I just think it's bold. So bold games sometimes don't work out very well. I think Abzu, I know you guys talked about it last week. I think Abzu is a huge miss. Like I think as I described it in the Seinfeld reference, we already have a George. We already have a Journey. We don't need Abzu, right? No Man's Sky, we don't have a No Man's Sky. So it's like, I need time, and I've it's been a long time since I've been so interested in what other people think. Where I'm like, I don't even know what to think. Like I'm seeking out random ass opinion. I read Jim Sterling's reviews. I'll read a review here and there, but I'm like scouring shit about No Man's Sky because I'm just like, I want to see like what the consensus is. The consensus seems to be, ironically, when you have two polar opposites right in the middle, right? Like, and it's not because people are meeting in the middle. It's because, like, well, you take some of the good and some of the bad.
Mm-hmm. You take the good, you take the bad.
Thank you.
Yeah,
you take them both, and there you have
facts of life.
Facts of life.
So, do you think people should play No Man's Sky? Give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, if what's you've been hearing sounds interesting, sure. If you're like, I hated everything about Minecraft and I hate games that don't have a narrative, then no, of course not. But
cool. What do you think, Cole?
I don't know. Like, I think remember we talk about often about The Witcher 3, and we were actually talking, I think, with Adam Boyes about it a few days ago, where I'm like, Witcher 3 made me lose my goddamn mind because it just never stopped. Just never stopped. Never stopped throwing things at me. Never made me feel like I was making any progress. Never, all those kinds of things. That concerns me about No Man's Sky because it is 1,000 times worse than that. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, if that sounds fun to you, like an endless, I feel like you're going to extract and squeeze much more than $60 out of the game if you play it enough.
If you're committed to it and you stick it through, yeah.
But I think that if you should probably watch some videos. I would wait. I mean, I don't. What's the rush? Mm-hmm. The game's probably going to be patched again soon. Like we've waited so long for this game. Like if you maybe wait a few more weeks and see what people really think, and some people you trust like have render final verdicts and. No, Hello Games maybe releases another patch and stuff. Remember, the game radically changed with the patch, the day one patch, like radically. If you read I've never seen patch notes like that in my fucking life, and with a launch game in my actually, or in a launch patch. In fact, I don't know if I've ever seen a patch like that ever, and even one a year after the game came out. It's like they're like, we changed everything. It never. I don't know if you saw the patch notes. It never stopped. Yeah. It was like, we changed this, and we changed the entire game. Okay, cool. And. The one thing that concerned me about it, which people said was mitigated by the patch, was that people already had the Platinum Trophy, which shows you that, not that trophies are indicative of length or quality of a game, of course, but shows you that you can see and do everything in the game, because the trophies are all like, see this many things and achieve this title and all this kind of stuff. People have it. So another thing to be a little concerned about. But be open-minded.
Staying in the realm of PlayStation, I want to talk about PlayStation meeting.
Oh, PlayStation meeting.
2016.
At the PlayStation Theater.
Is happening.
In PlayStation City.
Yes. PlayStation City. Big old PlayStation City. So here's the thing. We know it is happening on
August 7th, 3 p.m.
September 7th.
I'm sorry, September 7th.
3 p.m. Eastern time, right?
Right.
We know that it's going to be the PlayStation Neo, PlayStation.
You don't know that.
Whatever.
It's going to be more than that.
We know that.
PlayStation Trinity.
It's going to be more than that?
I think so.
So let's what do you think it is, Colin?
There are some rumors that there might be a slim PS4 there as well. I don't know if that's true or not, based on some patents and stuff like that have been leaking out, that people were actually thinking maybe it was a new Vita, and we got excited for about 2 seconds.
PlayStation Infinity Trinity.
I think they're going to show the Neo. I obviously in there, and what I'm most interested to see is the pricing, the specs. It's like it is the Trinity. It's the pricing, the specs, and the release date. It's the only things that matter. But I think there might be more there too. I think that if they're going to see if Neo has more high tech components and is going to raise the price of PlayStation 4, then they must have something new sell at PS4 at the same or lower price too. In other words, you're going to have like some sort of divergence of price points. Otherwise, because Greg and I were talking, like, is the Neo going to phase out PS4? And if so, like PS4 standard, and if so, which I think might not be a bad idea, but are you going to sell it for more? Like, so there's semantical problems with this that I think are going to have to be answered at this beyond just the Neo itself. Mm-hmm. If you're going to reveal this thing, then the automatic questions are, what happens to PS4? Are you releasing some sort of slim, really cheap model of it? Because now there's going to be some sort of power deficit. And, I think those are important and salient questions to answer right off the bat. So I think that they're not just going to have a half an hour thing like, here's the Neo and here are the specs and the release date and the price. They're going to have to really talk a lot about the old PS4 too. And if they don't, that's a huge mistake.
Well, so it's going to be live streamed.
Yep.
So because of that, we kind of assume this is going to be more of a press conference style thing.
Pre and post shows, twitch.tv.
It'll be like the PS4 reveal in 2013. Yeah. We were invited. Greg and I got our invites to go, but we're not going to go, I don't think.
As of now, we're not going. We're trying to figure out like what the benefit would be. Even if there's hands-on there, does it really matter?
Hands-on of PS4 games, like that's not.
They look better. You know what I mean?
I'll take your word for it. I've played these games. So I think we're going to, so we did get our invites, and we are going back and forth with Sony about what the benefit would be going, but looks like we're not going to go. And but it will be streamed for all to see. And I think it'll be a lot like, it won't be nearly as exciting or cool, but it'll be like the PS4 February 2013 reveal. I think it'll probably be an hour long. I'm sure they'll have some devs talking about some first party and third party game and like how they're extracting power out of it and stuff. And what I'll be most interested to see is, there are rumors circulating that I think from Vice, but I'm not sure. They'll hold me to that. About we had some conjecture in the past that did Sony look at Scorpio and get a little nervous because Scorpio is a quantum leap for Xbox One, which is why I think it's a more acceptable revision, especially because it's coming out next year as opposed to Neo, which is supposed to come out this year. That's supposed to be just a little bit of a step forward.
Yeah, Patrick Klepek and Austin Walker said that Sony has looked at upping the power compared to the original specs, and there's internal worry that the Neo may look outdated compared to Scorpio next year. and how much they can adjust in the game before launch is unknown. And final dev kits will release around the September 7th reveal, so they're not even out yet. So there is a chance they've been tweaking things.
Now, there's an important caveat there, and this is something Greg and I talked about as well, although we don't know what it means. The dev kits are going out, but when you spec games on PC to what they say the console is going to run at, so people are already definitively working on Neo games.
And remember, the rumor was that by the end of September, any game coming out had to have been, any game starting in October and any game releasing in September had to be patched.
Right, that was the old rumor, and so my assumption is that it could be a red herring with the kits are going out, therefore the console doesn't come out for a while. I don't know necessarily if that's true or not true. All I know is that when you talk to devs, for instance, Vita games were put on Vita for a lot of developers at the last second. If you talk to them, because they didn't have enough dev kits to go around. Sony's probably communicated a long time ago, it's going to run at this, and this is what you're going to spec your games at, so make them run on PC, and then we'll send you the dev kits, and you'll be able to get them onto the dev kits, and then we can start certifying everything. I assume that's probably the thing. So while I was a little more bullish on an early next year approach for PS Neo based on that specific sentence, I'm actually kind of backtracking on that a little bit now that I realize, well, why would you miss out on the holiday sales? And
especially when Xbox has the Xbox One S out there,
right?
And people are buying the shit out of it,
right? Exactly. It's selling well. That white one, I think, sold out. I think it's gone. As far as I know, they're not even making.
Yeah, I saw a headline that says it's gone forever.
It gone,
but I don't know the details.
So I think that there's a lot I'm interested I'm interested in the form factor. I'm interested in all those kinds of things. My hope is that it looks exactly the same. That's what I would really love, is it's just the fucking same shell, but they're not going to do
They'll
it.
never do that. Doesn't make sense.
Well, it makes sense from this point of view of being I still think they're going to have an issue with this. I still think there's going to be a big issue with this. And it would be kind of a cool thing to be it's really the same. It's just a little more powerful. You want to be able to tell, you look down on your shelf, you can just tell your friends you have. But actually, one of the things happening today with Hello Games coming out and saying Neo will change the nature of their game. I'm see? I'm now you are creating haves and have-nots.
I didn't see that. What they say?
That will just allow them to create a bolder and more ambitious game, I guess. I don't know the exact quote, but I was reading it before. This is exactly what I was talking about. This is going to happen for a lot of games now, and this is going to create controversy and problems for Sony. So they have to have a marketing approach to this, and they have to have a PR approach to this too, to put out these fires, because now we're going to see games running on this console. And so how are the games going to look on the old console? Yeah. If No Man's Sky is going to be better on Neo, isn't that against the whole preface of a ubiquitous platform? Why even have a PlayStation 4 at that point?
So Sean Murray says, quote, "For our game, No Man's Sky is procedurally generated. So more powerful hardware doesn't just mean upgraded textures or higher frame rate. It means we can fundamentally change the experience. You can have, and you'll see this from our patch notes, we're able to change huge things in the universe because we have complete control. With more powerful hardware, we can have more trees, more leaves on those trees. The density or immersion of worlds or new types of worlds could exist." So that's the problem, is when you talk about this fundamentally changing. Leaves and trees, cool, but then the last part of the new types of worlds, that's where it gets into it. Because the rest of that does just sound like PC slider stuff.
Sure.
Shaders and all that shit.
Yeah.
It's just more complicated than that, though. These games, this is gonna. I'm super interested in. We're never gonna learn the answers, but the pipeline issues with this too. Certifying games takes time and money. It's I pointed everyone towards Rami Ismail's from Vlambeer's piece on Kotaku last week about the act of certification, and I tweeted that out because Greg and I talk about cert a lot on PS I Love You, and what it means to go through cert, and the nightmares you hear from developers about going through certification. It's fucking terrible, and now they have to go through it twice. Mm-hmm. Every game's gonna have to go through certification twice now. Now all these games are gonna have to be. I'm telling you that I think Sony's fully cognizant and aware of these issues, and I'm sure that they have a plan, an approach. I think this is why it might maybe taken so long to reveal to them, in addition to maybe respecing it.
I think they went. Yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know that they're respecting anything. You have to assume that if this is coming out in October, let's say it's coming out on October 13th, same day as PSVR. I think that's probably a safe date to assume, right?
Yeah, if it's this year, that makes sense.
Those components were ordered 8 months ago. They're not respecting anything. I don't know how you would possibly. They're probably manufactured already. So at that point, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go to Foxconn and be like, it's like the famous. Isn't there a Bill Gates story where they had a prototype iPhone 1 in his pocket with his keys, and
Steve
Jobs rather. What did I say?
Bill Gates.
Steve Jobs had a iPhone in his pocket with the keys,
the plastic screen,
the keys scratched the shit out of the screen. The iPhone was gonna come out in a month or 6 weeks, and he's like, we have to remove the screens from all of them, put glass screens on. It's a big lift. It's a heavy lift for a company that doesn't really have that much money.
I think they've tinkered with it. I don't know what that would mean, but I think something has to have changed from when this originally was what it was. And I think that it's a direct reaction to everything we've heard about.
Well, I was reading on NeoGAF, and a lot of people think that what this could mean is things like overclocking. Like they figured out ways to just kind of change the clock speed on stuff to kind of just be able to boost the specs that they throw out there and like put on the box, you know?
Yep.
Because people hear the 6 teraflops or whatever it is.
We love teraflops.
For the Xbox, the Scorpio, and I think that is it's the number. All this is it's like back in the day with the bits. You know, it's like, well, 64-bit versus this. It's like, all right, well, what does that actually mean for
the
games and for the things that are happening? And I think that obviously numbers do matter. Like those things, like to people that don't understand what they are, higher numbers sound way more enticing. So I think that like even if it was just overclocked stuff, that can go a long way in terms of what the Neo potentially was versus what it potentially could be. So besides the system, let's predict the live stream. Let's predict the conference itself.
Okay.
What do you think happens? What games are shown? How do they focus on VR versus games we've already seen? Are any new games going to be announced?
I think it opens with a slick ass montage as usual, and then like similar to how they did the PlayStation 4 reveal, which did so well, right? Like you have it like the silhouette of it, right? And it's PlayStation. You know, more importantly, I want to know guesses of what it's going to be called.
PS4 Plus.
You think that's what it's going to be?
That's my guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but whatever it is,
Doesn't that get a little bit
and then
confusing with PlayStation Plus?
Maybe. I don't know. My other theory is that they just call it PlayStation 4. You know,
I mean,
if they're gonna phase it out, then it's like this is just PlayStation 4.
That to me that makes the most sense. Is phase the other one out. This is the PlayStation 4 from now on.
But do you care if it's $50 more than what PlayStation 4 is now?
I mean, if it's $50 better, that's the kind of the question. It's like if consumers want to find an older one, they can find an older one. Like that's you need to when you're making changes like this, you kind of got to stand behind them, or else the more I feel like this is the type of thing you need to commit to. You can't kind of like pussyfoot around it and just be like, if you want the old one, it's cheaper now. Because that's like, unless they're just trying to get rid of the stock that they have, and then that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
they need to commit to this, and they need to be like, it is what it is. Your games, if you already have PlayStation 4, it's gonna be fine. If you want the best experience, this thing's out there, and it's gonna piss a lot of people off. But I think it's gonna make the people that want it happy, and I think that's what's important at the end of the day. It's like keeping the thing going.
Sure.
So I think that just calling it the PlayStation 4 is the best move. But.
It's only they can only do this if they are phasing out old PS4 and if they're charging the same price. And I just don't know. I don't know enough about the components, and I don't know enough about that kind of stuff at all to know if they can get away with doing that. They are selling. They've always sold PlayStation 4 to profit, so they might be willing to eat it a little bit. But if they're going to charge like $50 more or $100 more, and then they'll be like, "This is it. This is the PS4." That would be I couldn't think of a time in history where they're like, we're going to significantly raise the price of the console.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, well, what? That's why I think this is I still feel like this could be an unforced error, but it's all conjecture because we don't know how the hell it's
when they come out and sell it, that'll be the different thing, right? Because I think when it's Tale of Two Cities with like Scorpio and this, right? Where Scorpio came out and was like, here's your first impression of this thing. Here's everyone saying it's awesome. Here's us telling you why it's awesome. We're building something here that's going to be awesome. And PlayStation let it all leak. Everybody had an opinion. Andrew House gives like a Business Insider or whatever quote about it. It's like this is a shitty way to reveal this.
Yeah.
You come out and it's an awesome montage. Andrew House, you assume, takes the stage, talks about how successful PlayStation 4 has been, but they need to look to the future and iteration and how things have changed. Let me introduce you to the PlayStation 4 Plus. Hear a shot of it, talks a little bit about what's in it, why it's better, what is doing this. Let's talk about the games. Bring up Neil and Bruce. They come up, talk about, hey, yeah, Uncharted 4 looks like this on it. They show you Uncharted 4 on it. They tell you that'll be a day one patch for Uncharted 4. As soon as this releases, you'll be able to get it. You'll be able to play this. It'll look more amazing. Jump into the next one. Show some new game, right? Yeah, that is coming up. Talking about the fact of like we've always been excited, it's always looked great, but it looks so much better. We're getting so much more out of it. This is why it's awesome. Jump from that into let's get you into like specifics about it now, right? Like here is the price, here is the release date, and then some kind of stinger. I think at the end, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, how does PSVR play into it?
I don't know how much they want to play into it. That's the weird thing about this is it seems like the rumors always go back and forth, right? If it is for PlayStation VR, it's not. It's just for 4K. You're not going to get any more out of PlayStation VR. Maybe you will get more out of PlayStation VR. I think that you talk about. I don't think you show it. I don't think you talk about it because I think the concern is that if you do, you suddenly have all these PlayStation VR pre-orders, right? That now feel screwed over in the fact of like you're telling me I have to shell out $600.
Then it becomes Oculus. Then it becomes Vive.
Exactly. You lose the advantage you have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you don't want people thinking about that day and date that they have to have it. I think putting it out on October 13th is a great idea. You're already in the store. You're buying a PlayStation 4, VR. You're already dropping all this money. Why not get this one? Whatever. But when it becomes like cool and it's going to make it so much better, it's going to run the game this way, and get rid of. That's when it gets like, wait a second, man. I already pre-ordered this. I already paid for this so far out, thinking that I had the best experience for that. Far out, man. I'm gonna smoke an L and play some PlayStation VR.
On my Neo. Yeah, I this is intriguing. I'm intrigued. I think that they have just obvious marketing challenges, and I think they're going to have to maintain positivity around the PlayStation 4 throughout this if they don't do it right, because I think that it's going to be easier to not do this right than to do it right. I think that the second Neil and Bruce come out and say, like, look at Uncharted 4 on PS Neo, whatever, everyone's gonna be like, what about the 40 million of us that have a PS4? Are you kidding me? Like, what now? I'm telling you, this is going to be a problem. I know some people are upset about this, but people are gonna be like, so I get the shitty version of the game now. Is that what you're telling me? I get the shitty version? And like, how are you gonna be like, no, you're fine too. Horizon looks way better on this machine and runs better, but you guys will get it too. You're gonna have haves and have nots with this, like you are. So it's
though, man.
No, it
Things
does, but it is not. This is not normal for this industry.
For consoles.
Yeah, I think it's going to. This is the new normal.
It is. Well, I mean, I'm not disputing that. Tim. What I'm saying is that no one has dealt with this before. These aren't phones. They're not iPads. They're consoles. For instance, like the NES that came out in 1985 and the NES that came out in 1993 are identical. They don't. The NES, the top loading NES doesn't do anything to those games. Like, it's the same fucking thing. It just runs it way more reliably. The SNES, all the Genesis iterations, for instance, are the same. All the two SNES iterations are the same. PS1s are the same, like the PlayStation and PS1, the proper PS1, like the little one.
Yeah.
This is new, and so like I think that this isn't like adding an Ethernet port or Wi-Fi. It's like this is a PC like move, and I think they're doing it out of survival. Like they understand it, and I don't begrudge them that. These people are way smarter than me. I have no doubt about that. But when you radically change something that people are used to, some of us, we've been playing games for 30 years like this. You're gonna have some problems, and I'm not saying they're not gonna overcome it. I'm not gonna say that in 5 years we're gonna look back and be like, that was fucking stupid. Like, why would we ever not want this? Mm-hmm. I still think that it would have been cooler to have a modular console, but and I think that they weren't far. I don't think either of the manufacturers were smart enough to do that, and I think that if they can go back, they probably would have. But because that would have been way easier for them. They didn't have to R&D all this new shit, and they can just you can plug and play as much as you want. I think that would be way smarter. I think that's what the next consoles will be. But in the meantime, I think that they have to overcome those things. So yeah, the Trinity though: name, price, release date. And I'm gonna say I'll stick. I think PlayStation 4 is possible. I think something like PS4 Plus or even PS4 2 or something like that is possible.
What about PS 4.5?
Nah,
that's too techie, right? That's how I feel.
But that's what they're calling an internal.
I mean, then they won't do that, obviously. But you know what I mean? Something to that. I think putting a number on it makes even more, or a letter on it makes more sense to a consumer, again, when we're chasing phones, if that's what we're going to.
Yeah, I think, so the name, price, I think it's going to be the same price as PS4 is now. And and if it's not, then PS4 is definitely the standard PS4 is definitely staying, and it's definitely getting a price cut.
I think it'll be $50 more than it is now.
Then PS4's got to get a significant,
I agree.
It's got to get cut. And maybe they make a slim model. Which all this stuff's floating around in the ether like it's going to happen. So.
I think you'll get slim model there. I think it'll be less than what it is now, $50 more for that one, and I think the stinger at the end will be Red Dead. You're in New York, Rockstar.
That's actually a great point.
That's.
I think that's what you come out and you're like, and because it's still a gaming thing, you have to sell everybody on games. I don't. Again, it is the haves and have-nots. I don't think you come out and you're like, Red Dead looks so much better on Neo, but. Maybe you do, because then again, you're giving yourself another leg up on why you should buy this instead of an Xbox, One S this holiday.
Yeah, and I've said in the past, I think I said it on the show, but I've definitely said it on PS I Love You, is that I didn't believe the rumors about Red Dead supposed to be was supposed to be the stinger at E3, Sony's E3 conference, until I heard it from people I trust. Like, I heard it from people that I absolutely fucking trust. So. They're not wrong about anything else. I don't know why they'd be wrong about this. So something happened there, I think, and so it's possible that they're owed this. They could have pulled it in light of the Orlando shooting and stuff like that, because I'm sure it's a very violent trailer.
Was the rumor, yeah.
So something that's actually a little weird for Rockstar. They usually don't give a fuck about anything, but I guess
But again, PlayStation though,
Right.
they do care.
So yeah, I think there's a bunch of different ways this can go. Release date, I think October 13th. Although if it doesn't come out alongside PSVR,
You think next year?
maybe next year. Like I don't know that but do you release it alongside Horizon or something? Like I don't. You have to have something to release it with. I don't.
What's really interesting to me with the whole just economics of how all of this is working out. Xbox One S announced at E3, already out. Scorpio announced to be a much bigger, better thing next year. Later. PlayStation having an event now is kind of weird if they don't release the Neo this year, because why now? Why not wait then to do it later? If it is just like, why not just have the event be about the PlayStation Slim? Like, just what's their Xbox One S?
It frankly
version
could be, but I don't think
That'd be the best troll of
that
all
would be
time.
they would never do.
We're
do that.
shrinking the
It's just-
PlayStation 4. It's $50 cheaper. That's it. See you guys.
It's the same
Yeah.
reason why Andrew House gave that interview, so that everyone went to E3 and was like, "It's not here."
Mm-hmm.
Like because we were all like, "Of course."
Of course, it's
I would have
gonna
bet
be there.
$1,000 that Neil would have been at E3 if he didn't give that interview. So it was. So you're right. I mean, so you want to get like super fucking crazy and super unsubstantiated and super pie in the sky, and combine the PS4 Neo coming out this year and my theory that Red Dead will also come out this year, and that's all revealed to be coming out the same day, and it's timed Neo exclusive or timed PS4 exclusive or something like that. Who knows? I mean, there's all those stupid rumors going back to the agent that Sony is owed an exclusive from Rockstar. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. We shall see on September 7th. We don't know what our plans are yet, but we
Pre
will
and post
definitely
shows, twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames.
keep
Probably
you
talk over the
locked.
conference as well.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be damn fun. Speaking of inside sources, Colin, this topic is all about them. We got two questions kind of from different angles about it.
Sure.
Question one comes from Next Gen Matt. He says, "Hey guys, was wondering if you could explain inside sources in the gaming industry. When the NX rumors were dropped by Eurogamer, IGN and Kotaku confirmed the rumors with their insider sources. I assume this is either someone at Nintendo or a game developer or a retail partner of Nintendo that has information on the NX who confirmed these rumors. What I don't understand is why would they confirm this? Why was their relationship with Nintendo? What do they have to gain by confirming or supplying information? I understand writers being told information off the record, but I don't understand why someone with access to major developers or platform holders would release this information and allow journalists to publish it anonymously. Also, why would you remain a single outlet's go-to for confirming leaks? Why maintain that relationship with IGN or Kotaku? Any insight would be awesome."
Cat's out of the bag at that point.
I mean, but the point is like at the nexus of like this information being released, right? My answer is I don't know. Like I've always wondered that. Like I have no fucking idea why people tell me the things they tell me on the record or off the record. Like, off the record, I guess I get. I know a lot of things off the record.
You're friends.
But the things that have been told me where I'm like, someone texted me when I was at IGN and was like, I'm like, really? And I tweet back like, or text back like, is that on the record? And then you get a yes, and I'm like, really? Like I'm and then you try to get the second source, or whatever, and you start. That's like what your whole day is about after that, and reaching out for comments, stuff like that. My whole thing is, I don't know if Greg has a different insight into it. I don't know. Like I really don't know. Like I think some people just want. I think that some people might maybe get a little bit of satisfaction being like, that's like in their own heart, in their own mind, being like, that's me. Like that broke because of me or whatever, I don't know. I don't know.
So I thought the question was going on why an unnamed source, in general, why would read it to me again. Let me see it.
You're saying why would an unnamed source?
But he asked why would why there be a confirmation or whatever.
No, he's saying why would an unnamed source with actual connections to these industry, like these companies, risk anything to talk to anyone about what they know? Like what is the payoff?
When NX rumors were dropped by Eurogamer, IGN, and Kotaku, by Eurogamer, IGN and Kotaku confirmed rumors with their insider sources. I assume this is either someone at Nintendo or a game developer, retail partner at Nintendo, who has information on the NX who confirmed these rumors. For right there, for that one part, that's calling your friends who work in the video game industry and being like, hey, did you see what Eurogamer just put up? Is that true? And
So that would be that second thing that Colin was talking about. So
I'm just making sure. I'm just saying where it's all in one bucket right now. I'm trying to clear it all up.
So for that though, you hear, let's pretend you're at IGN, right? You hear this thing about the NX from I don't know wherever the hell Eurogamer got it from. So then the rest of the day you spend it trying to figure out, like reaching out to the people context, and all you're trying to get from them is this true or not?
Right. I would never publish anything without a second source, right?
Yeah.
So you hear something substantial and then you just have to bounce that off of someone else. The only time that I ever published things that were only from one source is if someone else had already confirmed it and we want to confirm it ourselves. So a good example of that is when Orbis's controller, PlayStation 4 was codenamed Orbis for people that don't know or don't remember. And that controller image leaked of it. And I was the one who actually confirmed that it was real. Because the image was already out there. All I didn't need to do was talk to one person and be like, is this real? And that person was like, yes. Good enough. You know, like, okay.
So I guess the question is, why would that person give you anything?
And my answer is the same. I have no idea.
Yeah, you do.
Well, but because
why would somebody who's going to be named an insider source confirm that? Because they're your friend, they're your fan, they trust you, you trust them. Like there's no pressure there. Okay, cool. Kotaku, Eurogamer, whoever has blown up the initial story of here's the picture of the controller, and you just call developer X and say, "Hey, I'm not going to use your name, but is this real?" Yeah, that's real. Okay, great, thanks. Like that's using your relationships that you've cultivated.
Yeah, but that doesn't answer the question. That's not what the question is. The answer is like, what did they get out of it? And I don't know. Like I that's what I'm saying is like, yeah, we're friends. There's trust obviously built up. We've broken a bunch of stories in the past. We know a bunch of things, and a bunch of things we would never talk about because they're not on the record, and we respect that as well. You build up this camaraderie, but my honest answer, it could be different from Greg's, is I really don't know. Like I've always tried to respect that kind of thing with my sources, I don't technically consider myself to have sources anymore because I'm not breaking stories. When I hear something interesting and I want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. But like when I talk to a source about that person's feelings on the Neo iteration, for instance, and I tweeted that out and it caused a big problem, whatever. It's like, well, I'm not like really double and triple confirming things anymore. I believe that source and what they said. I think it's true. But that kind of just comes through camaraderie, and that comes through trust and time. When I started writing, when I moved over, I had no sources. No one was telling me anything. You eventually have to shake. That's kind of why I'm happy I'm not a journalist anymore, is like the whole schmoozing kind of thing. Like that's not for me. Like I have like very specific people in the industry that I talk to and trust or whatever. But like when I think about Patrick Klepek and Jason Schreier and these guys that break real stories, the amount of fucking digging that they have to do and the amount of handshaking that they have to do and meeting these people is like probably, it's mind-boggling. It's not worth it to me. Mm-hmm. So I don't know the answer to that question, other than the fact that, like, the one thing that bothers me, and I think Greg can speak to this more because I know that journalistic standards are varied depending on what you're talking about. But it's funny you bring this up because today I was going back and I was reading an old story from Kotaku about how they were blacklisted from blacklisted from Bethesda and blacklisted from Ubisoft for all the shit they did with Doom and Fallout 4 and the Assassin's Creed games that they leaked. And I was saying, like, and how they have no communication with those companies anymore. Those companies can pretend that they do not exist because they leaked 4 of their games or 3 of their games. Plus, like, they talked about how Doom was all fucked up and Prey was being developed by Arcane. Like, they have incredible contacts that the PR and marketing teams can't control. They sacrificed their entire relationship with 2 massive companies with huge games, getting no early copies of games, no access to anyone, no invites to E3 conferences, nothing to write these stories. And I'm like, I don't care what anyone says about them. That's journalism. Like Kotaku has this bad name, but they burned the bridges and like hurt their bottom line to like break these stories. And I think that's fantastic. So you have to, like, the reason I bring that up is because those are like significant stories. Like, I've written stories about like this game's canceled or this person said this thing or blah, blah, blah.
Layoffs here.
Yeah, like there are layoffs here or this game, blah, blah, blah. These guys were like, hey, Fallout 4 is real. Here's a bunch of information about it. They were like, Prey's being developed by Arcane in Austin, and then Bethesda was kind of hinting that it wasn't, and they're like, you're lying. Here are all the emails. So like that's fucking badassery in my mind. Like because and I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is something that was said by Steven Totillo in the piece, and I'm just paraphrasing. He's like, we don't owe it to anyone to hype a game up. We are not playing by they're not playing by anyone's rules. They're playing by the rules of what I feel like is their journalistic integrity to, we heard this and it's true and here it is and they're always right. Mm-hmm. But who the hell is talking to them? That's what I'm saying. Like for all the sources, the people we talk to, I can't fucking imagine who's giving them emails from Arcane. Like,
that's ridiculous.
Or who's like, here's all of the key art for Assassin's Creed twice.
Yeah. God damn. So that actually leads into the second question from the Wombat Dances. Do people have a right to report on industry drama and pre-release content? I asked myself this question in response to a video on The Know about how Sony had their No Man's Sky leak video taken down, supposedly because they didn't want companies talking about the leak. I also thought about industry drama such as Kojima and Konami, Amy Hennig, Naughty Dog, and Team Ico falling apart while developing Last Guardian. When we inevitably hear something about these events, do you think that companies should and could sue those who report on the drama? I'm also curious on your opinions of reporting on content that is yet to be released. Think No Man's Sky or Kickstarter backers. I remember when backers for Broken Age Act 1 started making content and reviewing the game before the official embargo. What about games that have yet to be announced? Colin's brought up how secretive the games industry is. Does that make it okay to report on what a studio is working on before it's been announced? Like the Norse God of War game or Days Gone? I know I touched on a lot here, but I'm eager to hear your thoughts.
It's not even that you touched on a lot, it's that Tim read it at fucking super speed.
It's
Boom.
I mean, I got it all. It's all fair game. The things that I think are off limits is like personal shit, you know, outing a person for being gay. Like, what is that a story? No, like it's not. Or this person's getting divorced, or this person's back paying alimony. Like, who gives a fuck about any of that? And that's not really happening in the games industry. That's like Gawker-esque, you know, Gawker Prime kind of shit. Good riddance. But it is fair game to say like this studio is having problems with this game, or this game exists, or it's like why is that sacred? Like why is that? I don't understand that. If that was the way it was looked at, like then the Pentagon Papers would have never been leaked. Then like we would have never gotten like all of this crazy like there seems to be this weird standard where it's like it's the artistic vision and all this kind of stuff. Well, but Hillary Clinton's emails were leaked. And those were pretty newsworthy, weren't they? I mean, they were seemingly legally gotten from sources, you know, clandestine sources and all that kind of stuff. But it's still newsworthy. Like, I'm not saying that it's right to do those kinds of things. What I'm saying is that it's still newsworthy.
Mm-hmm. The thing you're talking about is, I think it's just an ever closing gap of the fact that I think for a huge part of the video game industry, the journalism, it was equivalent to Entertainment Tonight. And now you're talking about people who are out there covering this like you would cover anything for a real newspaper. Our generation that has come up, you know, I mean, you talk about not that I'm knocking or the originators of EGM or GamePro or Nintendo Power, anything like that, but that was the thing of like, all right, cool, we are totally at the behest of the publisher, so yeah, we're gonna do this, and maybe Sushi X will put out 17 rumors and 2 of them have some credibility and like actually
like you figure out which one's
which.
exactly.
And I have no idea if that's how it was really done or anything like that, but then you do have our generation that came up and people who went to journalism school and want to do what Patrick's doing and want to do what Austin's doing and want to get out and what Steven Totilo and all them are doing, get out there and say, okay, cool, like we want to break that. And so there is this huge shakeup of in the middle of that gap that's closing all the time is PR, and that's their job for the entire olden days was to set up tours and bring games through and show you the best part of the game and explain to you when and have this plan that it's going to drop at E3 and this is how it's going to go and there'll be all these beats in this campaign and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you have all these people who are there wanting to feed a ravenous audience who I do think demands more than the Entertainment Tonight coverage, as is seen in the reason why video game journalism and commentating and all these things are taking off and Jim Sterling's working out so well and all these different things. They want that. They demand that. And then you just have an industry that's in the middle of a huge change, and that is an industry that's being treated you look at movies and entertainment coverage there, right? And how that had to grow with this industry that has now been around for more than 100 years or whatever, right? You look at video games and we're nowhere near that. We are still in the infancy of video games. So you're in the double infancy of video game journalism and what this is, and enthusiast press or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And so there's these growing pains. There's these stretch marks that get made because it is still the holdover of people who for years made the message and got it out a certain way, and then now there are the people who are going to go and call their sources and get this and blow up an Assassin's Creed campaign before it ever starts.
Yeah, and I this is the whole thing for me is that I when people are like, well, it's wrong that they when Assassin's Creed Syndicate was leaked on Kotaku, it was called Assassin's Creed Victory, and they were like, it's wrong that Victory was leaked that way. They had a plan for it, and I'm like, well, that's not Kotaku's problem. Like as long as it's not personal, it's not going after anyone personal, no one's families. It's corporate. It's about a video game. It's really not the end of the world. And it's interesting. We want to know those things. Like I'm sure that was one of their biggest stories of the year when they released that, because people care about that. And so you have to just draw the line at and what I think is the line of decency. And I don't think there's anything indecent about a source coming to you and being like, well, I have all this information. do you want it and you want to verify it and you vet it and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we were at IGN. IGN leaked Destiny. You know, we were the ones that did that. Like that happened when we were there, and that was a service to the readers to be like, this big game that you're gonna be excited about, it exists. And I don't really see like what I don't want to act like I had anything to do with that story. By the way, I don't. I don't deal with Activision at all. But to me, it seems to be like one of these interesting things where I'm like, everyone's like, but they're anonymous sources and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, go read Politico one day and see how many people's names are on the shit. You know, like go read the Wall Street Journal and see how many unnamed sources are on the front story. That's the way it goes. If the journalist and the writer trust that person, then they don't have to be named. Mm-hmm. You clear it with your editors and you're fine. That's the way it's always been. We didn't know who the fuck Deep Throat was until he was almost dead. Everyone seems to forget about those things. And by the way, that actually mattered. So it wasn't. It's to me, it's like, I think people are like protecting the PR and marketing interests a little too much.
Well, I think that's the thing, the line of decency. Like, where does that land? Like, respecting these people that are trying to have their PR plans or whatever. And I get that once you bring PR and marketing into it, it gets really dirty sounding because it sounds like these people they're just trying to sell you a product and stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's their job. But I think that also all the work that they're putting in the game, I get it. I understand these people being upset about this stuff. And when you take it a step further, like spoilers, like this specific story is about the No Man's Sky leaked is the news story, and they're being asked to take that down because that is putting spoiler information out there. You know, you think about like the TV shows and stuff, like the Walking Dead recently, it's been an ongoing thing, and Game of Thrones as well, where there's like these fan sites that are all just about spoiling stuff, and they're getting either sued or takedown notices or whatever from AMC and HBO because people are walking around taking pictures or drones are flying, filming the shooting of these shows, and it's just like, okay, so that's news. You know what I mean? You get to see who did Negan kill. You know?
Yeah.
What if that spoils that? You know, like that's the type of thing that's a little. Where's the decency line there when you're actually invading people's space to create the thing that they're doing? And with the video game stuff, it's the same way.
Sure, and that's the thing is like I can't speak to these other people and their sources, and I'm sure Greg kind of operated the same way I did, which is people came to me. Like I like if someone had like a thing with just information, I never really had anything like material. I never had like a USB drive. It was nothing like a fucking dead drop in Washington D.C. or something like that. Like it was just like it was like a phone call or a text over like this information. Here's what you need to know. I think that if someone like what you're talking about with Game of Thrones, like they're breaking and entering, like they're like this is a private studio or it's a private thing, like that's different. That's not what I'm saying, and I can't speak to the legal nature of what they're doing and if they can get sued or whatever. From a libel point of view, I don't see how writing that a game exists is libelous in any way. And to me it seems like I what you said was like I can understand why people are upset. I understand why PR and marketing are upset. Let's say Dragon Quest 11, well, we already know it exists. Like Final Fantasy 16 leaks, right? Mm-hmm. If I was at Square Enix, I'd be fucking pissed.
Yeah.
I totally understand why they're pissed. I don't understand why Joe Schmo on YouTube's upset about it. Mm-hmm. The hell does he care? You know, like that's the thing I'm confused about. Like there's too many people carrying way too much water for these companies. You know, and that's the thing.
It gets into this thing where, like, yeah, we're talking about how marketing would be upset, but there is also the developers, right? There's these teams of 100 people who have been working in secrecy. They haven't put it on their LinkedIn. They haven't been telling their family, blah, 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 blah. I understand that, like, that is the thing, especially when you know someone and I'm putting in quotes, know somebody. Let's say Sean Murray's next game got leaked, you know what I mean? And he put up a tweet of, like, how depressing that is. Like, he put up a tweet of, like, it sucks this guy paid $1,300 for this game. And I understand then people, like, feeling like they know their personality and rallying behind him. Carrying water then.
Because there's an alternative to this. Here's the alternative.
Don't click on the stories.
Well, no, I mean that's a solution to the problem, I guess. The alternative is like, let's wait, guys, until until everything's buttoned up and they want to show you their bull shots and they have all of their beautiful trailer and they'll leak out the information to you for over 18 months. Isn't that exciting? We love that. Isn't that great? Like, that's the alternative. Let them just spoon feed you everything. No gatekeep. They're the only gatekeeper. No one can penetrate the gate. Like there's no information about, interesting information about like, well, this game's troubled or isn't this an interesting story? Like, to me as an enthusiast, to me as someone who loves this industry and has been in this industry for a long time, that's interesting. That's way more interesting to me than most of the games that are coming out. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. Are we owed those stories? I don't think so. But I often wonder, like, if people look at the other side, it's like, you want it just spoon-fed to you?
Well,
Like
okay,
that
but
you
so-
just want it on their schedule. You just want, and I understand that they own the IP and they control the game, and I respect all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean you have to necessarily play by their rules.
No, for sure. But so going back to what I was talking about, like the HBO stuff. So yeah, the people that are breaking entering, like that is illegal, that is wrong, whatever.
I'm not saying that that's
but
right.
reporting on that.
Right.
So that's the thing. Is like that is then the source. That is the thing. You're not going to it, but it is coming to you in a way, right? So you see that. Then are you allowed to write about that? Like, because that is news. It is news that somebody found out.
But
The spoilers.
This reminds me of the newsroom. Remember that episode of the newsroom where
you obtain the information illegally.
yeah, like there's I don't know. It's not even important. It's not even an important analogy.
So no.
So No Man's Sky,
Yeah.
right? No Man's Sky obtained illegally.
No,
he
No Man's
bought it.
Sky's no. Some guy bought No Man's Sky for $1,300 on eBay
But how did it?
because
originally
people were
come from?
breaking street dates. There were thousands of people playing the game before it came out. Kotaku and Polygon were putting videos up a week before it came out. They just went out and bought it. Like, and that's why I was saying it was so weird the way Sony, like, I never seen Sony send emails the way that, like, and treat a game the way they were treating No Man's Sky, because it was completely out of their control. Like, and I think that they realized that, and I thought that was interesting. But if you can go to like, and people like still are like, Steven Totillo or one of those guys tweeted out, or someone from Polygon, I don't know, was tweeted out like, we're not beholden to any embargo. We walked into the store and bought it.
Yeah, that's always the thing, right? That's that was always our thing at
And I think that's
IGN or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm like, I get it. Like, you don't have to, like, if you don't play by the rules here, you might not ever get a game from them again. And you have to balance those kinds of things, and I respect that. If I had gotten the game early, if I had bought the game early, I would probably have played it, but probably would have not shown anything until the embargo. In fact, I was certain I would have. Not because I was trying to hide anything, but because I have a long-running relationship with Sony, and you don't want to...
Yeah.
We'll never get Days Gone. We'll never get God of War. We'll never get any of those games. We'll never be able to talk about any of it for you guys.
Importantly enough,
and we provide a service.
And the whole point is our business isn't news. To that point, right?
Yeah.
Like, sure, there's the relationship of it, but there's also the fact that, like...
It's just about having discussion about all
Right.
this stuff.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
It's not like this or that. It's just more like, what do we think? What are the different sides and all
Yeah,
that.
we don't have to draw the line of being, or trying to be, like in terms of news or news coverage or coverage in general, trying to be objective on that front anymore. We don't want to be dicks.
These are thought-provoking questions, and I think they're salient questions and important questions, but I want to make a comparison to politics. Now, I understand that politics is way more important and way more real world, right? Political campaigns craft a message. They often leak things intentionally all the time, which I'm not entirely convinced publishers don't do either. And everyone's like, well, Hillary Clinton's about to give a major economic speech, right? And then 2 days before the speech, or 36 hours before the speech leaks. They didn't intentionally do it. Someone just leaked it. Someone with an axe to grind has access to the DNC server. They get it. They send it to the Wall Street Journal. The whole entire thing leaks. Should we just have respected that Hillary Clinton was going to give that speech? But she had a plan, guys. Hillary Clinton had a plan, and they worked so hard on it. It's you're basically saying the same thing. It's like, someone at Ubisoft was like, or someone that had access to Ubisoft's content was like, here you go, journalist. Here's all the stuff from Assassin's Creed. They're supposed to be like, whoa, but Ubisoft had a plan, guys. Ubisoft had a plan. We got to respect the plan, the marketing and PR plan. No, what you have is newsworthy. Publish it. Like, you didn't do anything wrong. I mean, that's kind of my stance on it, and I think you can say that that's
100%,
the journalistic stance,
100%,
right?
yeah. And
I mean, you are a journalist. I'm not.
Well,
so
I'm a degree in
you have a
journalism,
journalistic.
yeah,
we were
I
both
know.
journalists at one time. You have a journalistic training, though.
Yeah.
That sounds on the up and up to you.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I mean, that's kind of my stance. If we want our industry to be taken seriously, start taking it seriously.
Yeah.
All right, topic 4 of the day, as always, brought to you by you over on kindoffunny.com/Gamescast topic. Go there, leave your questions, just like Ocelot570 did. Howdy, fellas. Is it shameful to play games on the easiest difficulty? On some games, I'm just not good enough to have fun and do well
next
on
story.
medium to higher difficulties.
Next question.
No, it is not. Do what you want. Play the games the way you want to play them. What do you care?
I mean, I think the key thing there is that I'm just not good enough to have fun and do well. It's like, all right, cool. Doing well is one thing.
Get
having
good.
fun. If you're not having fun,
That's
play
the
easy
bigger
and
thing.
eventually
Yeah, have fun.
You'll get good eventually, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how that works. I personally, I like playing games on normal. Like I think that that's the way that they intended it.
Yeah,
obviously.
it's usually rare, but if I'm playing a game on normal and it's way too easy and I crank it up, I'm usually like, man, this game wasn't balanced correctly. If I can't play on the default difficulty and have fun,
yeah,
like,
that's usually
I
the
gotta crank it
problem.
up to hard. And then
Yeah, I mean, all honestly, in earnestness, like I think you have to play the game the way you want. It's your game.
Your money.
Once you have the game, you play it the way you want. I actually ramp the difficulty up a lot, but that's just because I usually actually for trophies. But
yeah,
But that's the thing is like
part, yeah.
depending on how. Like, I think that a lot of games don't do a great job of having harder difficulties. It is just kind of like random.
The enemies hit
things.
you harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
just it takes 3 times more bullets to kill this thing. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that doesn't make it more fun.
Yeah, they're not
or more
thinking
challenging
differently.
or whatever.
Sure.
It's just kind of a bit more like annoying. Having said that, there are games like Halo that do a great job of making sure that each difficulty level is its own experience and is balanced and all that stuff. And I think that it's up to you to kind of find where that sweet spot is for you. Because like I know that, and it could be even franchise specific. I know like anytime Alfredo plays Halo, he just pops right into, he does his first run on Heroic because he wants to get a feel for it. And then he does Legendary because that's a different experience.
Legendary.
But for me, it's normal.
Name is Ski.
Off a show.
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky.
Have you guys ever played a game on easy?
Oh, sure.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
don't
there's
know,
been
I don't know
something.
which, but
Definitely on
Yeah, I'm
trophy
sure.
when you're trying to run through and do it again and again and again.
Yeah, my
oh
first,
yeah. If you're grinding, yeah.
the first game that I can remember was Devil May Cry 1 because that game had a feature where if you died, I think 5 times in the early on,
Yeah.
then it just automatically bumps you down to easy. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna start this game
Embarrass yourself.
over and like play again. So I evenally later beat it.
I hated that. I don't feel like games do that anymore. Too or as
Like
much
talk
where it was
shit to you?
It's like, are you sure you want to play on this difficulty? I'm like, fuck
Metal
you. And then
Gear
I-
did. Metal Gear did with a chicken hat. You kept dying too much. Like, do you want the chicken hat? They won't be as hard, you pussy.
Oh yeah, or freaking pretty much any Nintendo game nowadays. Like after a while, they just give you the.
You want to skip this level?
Do you want to skip this? Do you
That
want
sounds like a
the
PS2
Tanuki
thing the
whatevs?
most to me. Like that brings me back to that era, that specific era, where it's like, you kind of suck.
That's funny. Yusef McGuid says, with the success of Pokemon Go and Battlefront, how important do you think IP is to a video game?
Oh,
I
hugely
think it's
important.
extremely important. It's
Hugely
like,
important.
having something that's identifiable is like the most important thing for marketing, and marketing is how things get sold. So, in terms of the success of a game, I think that it's easier for people to wrap their heads around what something is when they can visualize it already. You know,
Yeah.
when it's a new IP, it's like, what does that even mean to
Yeah,
people?
that's the hardest-
Need, they need to then learn what that is. Whereas Battlefront, you can literally have a teaser trailer it's a snowy planet, and all of a sudden there's AT-AT coming. You know it's Star Wars. You understand what that means. Whereas other things need to show a lot more for you to take something out of it.
It's the reason games with the 2 after them sell better, right? Because there's usually now an established audience who's already learned what this is and has talked about it and going out, and they want you to go do that. And that's why, obviously, Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 is going to sell so much better than Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I have anything really to add to it, I guess, at the end of the day. I just feel like what I was gonna say was that I feel like there's too much of a reliance on established IP. I like that even if Sunset Overdrive or Days Gone on the other side, I feel like there still needs to be investment in new IP to establish those things, because the IP can be that towel can be fucking wrung real quick.
100%.
And I feel like there's a reluctance to invest in that. Yet I also see a changing of the course as well, with Ubisoft, for instance, saying like we're not going to just beat the shit out of Assassin's Creed anymore for no reason. We'll disappear for a little while, and when we bring Assassin's Creed back, maybe you'll like it.
But we'll give you a movie, though.
Yeah, we'll give you a movie in the meantime, so you don't forget too much about
Kanye
it. But
West soundtrack.
But I feel like that was a really smart move that they didn't have to do. They probably could still sell millions of copies of that game every year if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, Grand Theft Auto is actually the best example of all of them, right? So if I would not, I don't know that I would have the restraint that Rockstar and Take-Two have had with that game. Where if I had Grand Theft Auto 5 and I was like, well, now we're just going to hire literally 5 studios and we're just going to make Grand Theft Auto all day. Every year, Grand Theft Auto is going to come out. And that's what they did on PS2. It wasn't made by 5 studios, made by the same studio, but
For the best trilogy of all time in video games.
But they showed and what did that do? Well, they have the second or third best selling game of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They made billions of dollars in profit, and they have this sacred IP, and they know that when they release Grand Theft Auto 6, it's going to be a massive deal, and they'll sell. They might have sold 20 million copies of all those games, but the next one they'll invest less money in making it, and they'll make more money on the back end. So I think that there's ways to really respectfully treat the IP as well.
And keep in mind, too, that going back to the well on an IP doesn't necessarily mean that you don't get to make new ones. Look at, Naughty Dog, right? They make all these Uncharted, and that opens the door for a Last of Us. You're
Yeah.
making enough money, you've established yourself, go do this.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing you assume now with Sucker Punch, right? You made a bunch of Infamouses, people understand who you are. You assume next one's going to be a new IP, go make it.
Yep. Joy Benoodles.
Joy
The
Benoodles!
follow-up question to the last one.
Newman Sky!
What do you think about that potential Telltale Mr. Robot game?
I don't know what to make of this yet. I think by the time, well, maybe not by the time this actually airs, but around that time we'll probably have information on it. I find it hard to believe that Telltale is going to make a Mr. Robot series, but they did make a, what was that, Wolf Among Us, which
Yeah.
is arguably not nearly as popular as Mr. Robot. So that was also a different Telltale.
Yeah.
There's something like, so people have to understand that, and we talked about this on Colin and Greg, that all Telltale did was retweet Evil Corp, which is the E Corp, which is the corporation that they're going after, and Mr. Robot trying to hack. They just retweeted shit from those verified accounts about this app and all this kind of stuff that's going to be revealed at Gamescom and all that. If they make a Mr. Robot series, that's fucking bold and badass, especially because Mr. Robot's apparently his ratings are not very good this season. So,
but I feel like
I'm a little reluctant to think that they're making it.
I feel like the ratings aren't great, but in our Venn diagram of video game friends and nerds and Mr. Robot fans, it feels like there's so much overlap. Every time you mention this show on Colin and Greg Live, the chat explodes. You know what I mean? I feel like you would find an audience for it here, and you've seen them do it with Game of Thrones. They like getting tied into these universes.
Game of Thrones is huge. You know, like that's the thing. That's the thing I'm saying is like, Mr. Robot is a somewhat niche USA show.
Sure.
Game of Thrones is a marquee.
They're working
HBO
with
series.
Batman and Marvel and Game of Thrones, and I had another Minecraft. They're working with huge IPs.
And then Mr. Robot. I'm like, well, it just doesn't seem like. I mean, I would love that. I think that'd be cool.
Would you play it though?
Oh yeah, definitely. Mr. Robot's great, and I'm gonna play Batman. So I mean, I'm gonna wait till they all come out. But Batman, I'm really excited about. It looks great. I heard it doesn't run very well. Shocking, but I would play that. Yeah, I would be really into that. I just feel like that. There's got to be other things they could be doing, you know. But maybe they want to, do something.
Yeah, but something they're excited.
They're
about.
passionate about. Yeah, I respect that. And the show is exceptionally written. So,
Grocer's Pride says, this one's more directed towards Tim. Pokemon Go's huge, but I haven't really gotten into it. It's an occasional distraction for me, but I'm not compelled to play it. That said, the app inspired me to buy a 2DS on the cheap so I could play Pokemon Yellow, and I'm totally hooked for the first time since Pokemon Go came out. My question to you, as a lapsed Pokemon player, do you have any suggestions for the next Pokemon game I should play on my 2DS? Should I try to go in chronological order, or should I hop into the current iterations? Are there any must-play in the series? My favorite of all time is Gold and Silver, and the remakes on the DS, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, are, I think, by far the best Pokemon games. They're all good. They're all great, even. So it's like I don't think that there's any bad place to jump in. Black and White was really good. If you're only going to do one, I'd go Heart Gold and Soul Silver and go from there. I think that if you take the time playing those, that might lead up nicely to Sun and Moon coming out in November.
Be interested to see. I thought his question was going in a different direction. I thought he was going to ask about, because he said that Pokemon Go actually convinced him to play Yellow, and I was wondering if he was going into the direction of like, what do we think because we've talked about in the past what the bleed over is going to be from the Pokemon Go casual player. Will they buy a 2DS or a 3DS and play the new Pokemon games? I'll be really interested to see if there's some sort of data that's released.
Early
conversion
on,
data.
And on Gamescast, I was saying I don't think it's going to have much conversion rate, but I think I'm going to kind of change my thoughts on that. I think that, seeing all these people play, like people that do not play games, I bet you we could convince Erin to play Pokemon. I don't think it would take too much. I mean, she would need a 3DS and stuff.
Yeah, she can use mine.
She'll play Invisimals.
Yeah, great. But I think that it's going to be interesting. I wonder if there is a way to kind of get that data.
To that point, to Greg's point, she has asked multiple times straight up she wants a Vita. So God bless.
What are you waiting for?
God bless. I'll just give her mine and I'll go buy it now.
4533 says, is there a place for disabled or differently abled game journalists? I can only play games with one hand. If I were to review a game, would my opinion, specifically in regards to the controls, be just as valid as a review by an able-bodied journalist?
I think there's a place for that. Yeah, I think it's you. I think you start your own though. You start your own thing. You do your own niche reviews. You get your own YouTube channel, your own site, your own .com.
Isn't there a site called ablegamers.com that's about?
Yes, but about
I know they're
rating games on how they are for disabled gamers. Yeah.
So
that sounds good.
That sounds like an outlet. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be valid. And what I really like is that game developers seem to be. I mean, these aren't a lot of these. Catering to a disabled like super niche in a way is not profitable, but it is the right thing to do. And I like that a lot of studios are starting to think about this. That game Hue that we saw at GDC that's coming to Vita and PS4 in a few weeks is all about colors. And remember, I asked him on the stream, I'm like, how can a colorblind person playing it, thinking I kind of not nailed them, but I was kind of like,
gotcha, fuckers.
But I was kind of like expecting an answer, which I thought would have been a valid answer. Would have been like, you can't play it. And I would have been like, okay, that's a valid answer because there's, but they're like, no, we actually thought about this and here's how you play it with you can't see color. And I was like, huh.
Yeah. So what was the answer? They put like letters
symbols
on each one and symbols. Yeah.
In terms of, is there a place for him at an IGN, a GameSpot, or whatever? I think there is. I don't know if you're on the review team necessarily. If you are, I think there's. It would be hard not knowing him personally and like another disabled gamer, right? In terms of like, if your critique is that it's hard to control, that's where it gets weird. You know what I mean? And if you are critiquing that it doesn't have this mode that you would need, that gets weird. But I definitely think in terms of a pundit role, a personality role, a person who loves games and has a unique perspective on games, yeah, there is.
Definitely. Big Time says, hey there, Tim, Colin, and Greg. With Zelda Breath of the Wild coming to both Wii U and NX, I'm presented with a dilemma. Do I play it on Wii U and miss the chance of possibly playing it on the go? Alternatively, I could wait and play it on the NX when it launches in March and miss out on being able to discuss my experiences with the day one crowd being on Wii U. How are you planning on playing Zelda?
NX all the way, motherfucker.
I feel like you might be a little misguided
Yeah, the day
with
and
all
date,
of
I thought.
this. Yeah, supposedly day and date. So the day one will be on the NX if you get an NX. So I'm going to be playing on NX. I hope you are too.
I'm playing on NX on the plane, on the toilet, everywhere.
I'll be playing on NX as well.
Playing it while I fuck Kevin.
Superflip says, hey guys, I host an annual video game tournament I call the Thunder Games.
Nice.
I try to pick games that are short and simple so that anyone can come and play regardless of skill level, i.e. Nadog, Dive Kick, Speedrun on Super Mario Level 1-1, etc. My question is this. What games do you think fit this category that I can include in the upcoming year's event?
Star
I usually
Wall.
have 3 rounds with 3 different games in each round and end with the semifinal and final for the top scores.
Star Wall. Game
Video
Beasts,
Ball.
Video
Oh,
Ball.
Video Ball.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Towerfall.
Yeah.
What was that?
Overcooked?
What was that game? Fuck.
It's okay, don't worry.
I can't remember. I can't even think of it. It's like I'm trying to think of all
What's
these
the one?
Let's Plays we did.
God, now I'm doing it. The one where we played at GDC as well. It was with the wireless controllers. We asked for him for advice on the wireless adapter. It was like we were
The
in
volleyball one?
no, where we in the Pantheon and we ran around with swords fighting each other. That was a good one.
Oh, right.
Go look at our Let's Plays.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, just go look at the Let's Play.
Arena.
Arena.
That's what it was.
Right.
Arena Gods.
Arena Gods. There we
Arena
go.
Gods.
And then the one you were talking about was dodgeball, stickball or something like that. Or
Yeah.
Stick'em dodgeball or whatever. That was fun. You
That
guys
was
did.
great. That was great.
But Star Wall.
Final question comes from Malakath the Red. Hello. I was wondering if you guys think Level 5 will ever continue the Dark Cloud series. Colin.
Yeah, I think it's possible. They released, I think, Dark Cloud 1 and 2 on PS4. Level 5 is a weird studio because they work on a lot of different things. They're doing Ni no Kuni 2. They're doing Layton. So they seem to have their hands full. I don't know like the rhyme or reason to how they make how they make their games. But I think Dark Cloud 3 has always been kind of a point of discussion. Rogue Galaxy is another game that they did on PS2 that people really love that they can go back to. Level 5 is a pretty great developer. I mean, they did have misses. White Knight Chronicles was fucking trash.
What are you talking about? Clements loved it.
No, he didn't. That game
Can't we just say Clements
sucks. Oh my god, I hate White Knight Chronicles. I hated it. So they have had misses, but I think it's possible. Dark Cloud is an interesting game, and I feel like in some ways a little bit ahead of its time.
I forget. That's out now on PS2 Classics? I think they'll watch numbers on that for sure.
Yeah, I think that Dark Cloud in its kind of like I always reference Azure Dreams and these other games where you're like going into these places and trying to extract as many goods out of them as possible and kind of exploring and all that kind of stuff. It seems like kind of part of the zeitgeist today, actually, when you look at these roguelikes and these kind of procedural games. Like I think that Dark Cloud 3 could be a game that exists in a AAA space amongst those other kind of more indie style games. So I would love to see that. I would play the shit out of that game. I love Dark Cloud. Dark Cloud 2 is great too.
That reminds me, did you see on NeoGAF recently that there was a thread about how Capcom saw the result or the sales of Resident Evil Remake HD, and they're like super surprised by it, and they're like, oh, we're going to try to do a lot more of this? Onimusha.
Yeah, I mean, I can't fathom, I don't understand what they're doing with Onimusha 1, 2, and 4.
Hate you so much.
What they're doing with Onimusha.
So fucking much.
They should release the
Shut up,
Onimusha
Kevin.
trilogy.
Let us have some fun.
Onimusha 2, and Onimusha Dawn of Dreams, the great Onimusha trilogy.
Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Kind of Funny Gamescast. We will see you next week. Until then, I love you. Onimusha.